It started on a Tuesday night, one of those nights when everything feels unusually quiet, almost like the air itself is waiting for something to happen. I had gone to bed late after finishing some work on my laptop, and I remember checking the time before closing my eyes, 11:48 p.m. I wasn't even fully asleep yet when I heard it for the first time. A slow, dragging step somewhere in the hallway. At first, I didn't think much of it. The building was old, and old buildings make noises. But then I heard another step, and another, each one perfectly spaced apart, as if someone were intentionally walking at a slow, steady pace. I kept my eyes closed, listening carefully, trying to figure out if the sound was coming from inside my apartment or somewhere outside. It was hard to tell. The steps were soft, but they had weight to them, the kind that makes the floorboards complain under pressure. A few seconds passed, and the steps grew closer. They were definitely inside my apartment. That's when my eyes shot open. I stared at the ceiling, my chest tightening with each second that passed. I tried to move, but fear glued me to the mattress. The steps were now unmistakably right outside my bedroom door. I could feel the vibration through the floor. Then they stopped. The sudden silence was brutal. My heart was pounding so hard I was certain whoever or whatever was outside could hear it. I slowly turned my head toward the door. It was cracked slightly open, just an inch or two, the way I normally leave it at night so my room doesn't feel too closed off. That crack looked like a black void now, like a slit leading into an endless darkness. For a moment, I told myself it might just be my imagination, some leftover dream mixing with the sounds of the night. But then I heard breathing, slow, heavy breathing. It was coming from the other side of the door, steady inhales and exhales, as if something enormous was standing there. I didn't dare move. I didn't dare blink. The breathing grew louder and closer to the gap under the door. I could almost feel the warmth of the air sliding into the room. My mind ran through 1,000 possibilities. An intruder, a sleepwalker, some kind of animal, but none of them made sense. Not at midnight. Not inside my locked apartment. I forced myself to reach for my phone on the nightstand. My hand trembled as I unlocked it. The bright screen illuminated the room for a split second, and that's when I heard it. A whisper. My name. It didn't sound right. It didn't sound human. It was soft but distorted, like someone trying to mimic a voice they didn't fully understand. My blood went cold. My entire body felt like it was sinking into the bed. I wanted to yell, to run, to do anything other than lie there frozen, but fear held me hostage. Then the floorboard in front of the door creaked, slowly, deliberately. The breathing shifted, now positioned lower, as if the thing outside was crouching or bending down to look under the door. I stared at the thin strip of darkness beneath it, terrified I would see an eye staring back. Seconds dragged by like hours, and then something slid under the door. A long, slow scraping sound, like fingernails dragging across wood. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it would go away. Eventually, the breathing softened. The footsteps returned, slow, dragging, moving away from the door. Step by step, fading into the hallway. I waited until I could no longer hear anything, not even my own breath. When I finally opened my eyes, the room looked normal again. Nothing had changed. But I stayed awake until sunrise, too afraid to close my eyes again. When morning came, I forced myself to get up and check the hallway. My legs felt weak, almost numb. I stepped carefully toward the door and opened it slowly. The hallway was empty, quiet. But on the floor, right under the doorframe, I found 3 long scratch marks etched into the wood, fresh ones. I touched them gently. The edges were rough, like something had clawed at the floor. I backed away instantly. The rest of the day felt wrong, like the air in the apartment was heavier, or maybe it was just the fear sticking to me. I kept telling myself it was a dream, some intense half-asleep hallucination. That night, when I came home from work, I hesitated before unlocking the door. I stood there, key in hand, listening, but everything was silent. When I finally pushed the door open, nothing seemed unusual. I tried to shake it off and go about my evening, but right before bed, I noticed something I hadn't seen earlier. A small piece of paper sticking out from under the door, as if someone had slid it from the hallway while I was inside. My stomach dropped. I picked it up with shaking hands. The paper was old, yellowed, like it had been torn from a notebook decades ago. On it, written in thin, shaky handwriting, was a message. "Are you awake tonight?" I felt my whole body go numb. I dropped the note on the floor and stumbled back into my room. I locked the door, pushed a chair against it, and sat on the bed, breathing heavily. Minutes passed, or maybe hours, I couldn't tell. I just stared at the door and listened. The apartment was silent, completely silent, too silent. And then, at exactly 2:13 a.m., the footsteps returned, slow, dragging, right up to my bedroom door. They stopped again, right where they had stopped the night before. But this time, it wasn't breathing I heard. It was tapping, soft, rhythmic tapping on the wood. Tap, 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 like fingers or nails. Then, in that same distorted whisper, I heard the voice again, this time clearer, more confident, more certain. It said, "I know you're awake." I stared at the door, frozen with fear, unable to respond, unable to breathe. The tapping stopped. Silence filled the room. And then, very slowly, the door handle began to turn.